There's a trail of blood on a driveway in Tucson, Arizona. It doesn't scatter. It doesn't trail off into the desert dark like you'd expect from a struggle that spilled outside. It stops. Clean. Precise. Right where a car door would have been parked. That detail, more than anything else in this case, is the one that investigators can't let go of. Her name is Nancy Guthrie. She's 84 years old, a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother. And until the early morning hours of February 1st, 2026, she was simply a woman who had lived in the same quiet, affluent Tucson neighborhood, the Catalina foothills, for more than 50 years. This is not some forgotten cold case from decades ago. This is happening right now. As of today, Nancy Guthrie has not been found. The investigation is active. The FBI is still working it. And her daughter, NBC Today show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, has spent the better part of this year pleading with the public for any piece of information that could bring her mother home. So before we go any further, this video is built only on what has actually been confirmed by law enforcement, the FBI, and credible national reporting. No embellishment, no invented suspects, no theories dressed up as facts. Just the timeline, the evidence, and what experts who've worked cases like this are saying about where it might be headed. If you're new here, this is Silent Cipher Crime. We cover cases that are still unfolding, still searching for answers. Hit subscribe, because cases like this don't resolve in a week. They resolve because enough people are paying attention, and somebody, somewhere finally talks. There's a reward on the table right now for information that helps bring Nancy home, and the math behind why nobody's claimed it yet is one of the most unsettling parts of this entire case. We'll get to that. Let's start at the beginning, January 31st, 2026, a Saturday. Nancy spent the day the way she spent a lot of her Saturdays, with family. She visited her daughter Annie's house, spent the afternoon together. By evening, her son-in-law Tommaso Scioni drove her home. Multiple reports placed the drop-off at her house at approximately 9:45 to 9:50 p.m. Tommaso is the last person known to have seen her. Nancy went inside her home in the Catalina foothills, the kind of neighborhood where for decades nobody thought twice about leaving a garage door cracked open overnight. It's wealthy, it's quiet. It's the type of place where safe isn't just a feeling, it's a 50-year track record. That night, at some point, her back door was left propped open. Then the doorbell camera caught something. The FBI later released footage and still images from Nancy's Nest doorbell camera. It shows a masked individual, described as a man of average build, somewhere around 5'9" or 5'10", wearing gloves and carrying a black Ozark Trail hiking backpack, the kind you can buy off the shelf at Walmart. There are two separate clips. In one, 27 seconds long, the person approaches the front door and raises a gloved hand toward the camera before walking away. In the second clip, 14 seconds long, the person is facing the camera directly, holding a flashlight in their mouth, and then deliberately covers the lens with vegetation from the yard. Think about that for a second. This isn't someone panicking. This is someone methodically blinding the one piece of technology that could identify them, using a flashlight to see what they're doing while they do it. At 2:12 a.m., Nancy's home security system detected motion in front of one of her interior cameras. But investigators could not recover footage from that moment. Whatever happened inside the house in the minutes that followed, there's no video record of it. And then, at 2:28 a.m., the detail that has become the emotional core of this entire case, Nancy's pacemaker app, connected via Bluetooth to her phone, disconnected. She wears a Medtronic pacemaker. It talks to her phone constantly, quietly, in the background, the way most of our devices do. And at 2:28 in the morning, that connection just stopped. Bluetooth has a range. Once a device moves far enough away from the paired phone, the connection drops. Investigators have pointed to this moment as the clearest digital marker they have of when Nancy physically left her own house, and by extension, roughly when she was taken. When deputies arrived later that day, they found the back door propped open and a trail of blood drops near the front door. Forensic testing later confirmed the blood was Nancy's. She never showed up the next morning for a scheduled online church service she watched with a neighbor. When she didn't appear, a member of her church reached out to the family. Relatives went to check on her around 11 a.m., searched the house and the surrounding property, and found nothing. Her phone, her personal belongings, all still inside. By noon, the family called 911. She was gone. Here's where this case gets complicated, and where I want to be really careful with you, because there isn't one clean, agreed-upon theory. There are competing ones from credible people, and they paint very different pictures. Theory 1. This started as a burglary that went wrong. This was one of the earliest working theories. An intruder breaks in, expecting an empty house or a sleeping, easily avoided homeowner. Instead, 84-year-old Nancy is awake or wakes up, and there's a confrontation. Under that theory, what happened next wasn't planned. It was a panicked, in-the-moment decision that spiraled completely out of control. Theory 2. This was targeted from the start. Some investigators and outside experts have pushed back on the panic framing. Their argument: a true panic response looks like fleeing the scene, not taking an 84-year-old woman out of her home. To pull off an abduction, even a botched one, you generally need somewhere to go and some way to get there. That's led some to float the idea that whoever did this had more familiarity with Nancy's home, her routine, or the neighborhood than a random, opportunistic burglar would. I want to be straight with you. This is a theory, not a confirmed fact. No suspect has been named. No person of interest has been publicly identified by the FBI as of this video. The man on the doorbell camera remains unidentified. And then there's Theory 3, the one that's only become public very recently, and it's the grimmest. In the days after Nancy disappeared, the family and Tucson media outlets received ransom notes. 2 of them were taken seriously enough that the FBI tried to trace their origin. The first note demanded payment in cryptocurrency for Nancy's return. The second note, and this is the part that wasn't made public for months, reportedly said that Nancy had died shortly after she was taken, and that she'd been buried somewhere in nature. According to multiple sources briefed on the investigation, the note suggested whoever took her didn't intend to kill her, but that she died not long after the abduction. Law enforcement asked that this note be kept private to avoid compromising the investigation. Its contents weren't publicly revealed until late June of 2026, nearly 5 months after it was received. Retired private investigator Dan Ribicoff, speaking to the BBC, offered a theory for why no ransom was ever actually collected and why the trail has gone cold. If Nancy died during the abduction, this stopped being a kidnapping for ransom and became something the person responsible would want buried, literally and figuratively. His reasoning is that whoever did this likely went underground, specifically because collecting a ransom, or even communicating further, would have meant exposing exactly where she is. If a kidnapping goes as planned, Ribicoff noted, you typically see it through. Payment gets made, the person gets released, and that exchange usually generates leads. A wire transfer, an IP address, a phone record, something. None of that happened here. The case went cold on the evidence almost immediately after the abduction itself. That's the part that makes this so hard for investigators. Whether you believe this started as a panicked burglary or a targeted abduction, the note suggests the most painful possible outcome. And the silent synth suggests whoever knows the truth has every reason never to come forward. On February 24, 2026, Savannah Guthrie posted a video announcing that her family was offering a $1 million reward for any information that helps bring her mother home. Around that same time, the family also donated $500,000 to the National Center for Missing Exploited Children to support other families going through something similar. $1 million, publicly offered, widely reported, sitting there for months, and nobody has claimed it. That silence tells investigators something. In cases involving more than one person, money like that tends to break things open. Somebody gets scared, somebody gets greedy, somebody can't live with it anymore, and they talk. The fact that a reward this size hasn't produced the breakthrough lead suggests one of two things. Either whoever has real information is so deeply implicated that talking destroys them just as much as staying silent does, or genuinely nobody who knows anything is alive, available, or aware that what they know matters. It's worth saying plainly, nobody official has confirmed how many people were involved in this. That detail simply isn't known. What is known is that 5 months later, with a 7-figure incentive sitting in plain sight, the case remains unsolved. Savannah Guthrie has spoken publicly only sparingly. In an interview with her friend and former Today co-host Hoda Kotb back in March, she said plainly, "Honestly, we don't know anything." She's described her family as unable to find peace without answers, and has directly asked anyone with information to come forward, saying, "Someone can do the right thing, and it is never too late to do the right thing." In May, on Mother's Day, she posted a tribute to her mother that read, in part, that the family will never stop looking and will never be at peace until they find her, adding that someone out there knows something that could make the difference. The investigation hasn't stopped. It's slowed in terms of headlines, but not in terms of work. Investigators have been canvassing gas stations and reviewing surveillance footage from roads near the Catalina foothills, trying to track any vehicle that doesn't belong. About 11 weeks into the investigation, the FBI finally obtained a hair sample from the crime scene, which was sent to a forensics lab. But as of the most recent reporting, that hasn't produced a breakthrough. Experts have said more advanced DNA testing on partial or degraded samples can take weeks or months to process. There have also been false leads, the kind that come with a case this high profile. In June, a true crime live streamer discovered human remains roughly 7 miles from Nancy's home. For a moment, it seemed like this could be the answer everyone has been dreading. Tucson police later determined the remains were prehistoric, unrelated to Nancy's case entirely. And then there's the development out of Mexico. A volunteer search group called Buscando Corazones Nogales received an anonymous tip in May claiming Nancy had been buried in a shallow grave roughly 70 miles from her Tucson home near Nogales, Sonora. They searched. Nothing. A second tip pointed to a nearby location. They searched again in June. Still nothing, though in the course of that search, the group reportedly came across 25 unmarked graves unrelated to Nancy's case, a grim reminder of how much unresolved tragedy exists along that stretch of the border. On June 11th, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos publicly acknowledged the tip, but stated that, at that time, his office had not been contacted directly by Mexican authorities. So here's where things stand, as of this recording. No suspect named, no body found, no ransom collected. A case that started with a doorbell camera catching a masked figure tampering with a lens at 1:47 in the morning, and that, 5 months later, has produced more questions than answers. Strip away every theory, every expert opinion, every piece of forensic speculation, and what's left is simple and devastating. An 84-year-old woman went to sleep in her own home after a nice day with her family, and she has not been seen since. Whoever did this, whether it was one person or more, has managed to stay silent through 5 months of national attention, a $1 million reward, FBI involvement, search teams in 2 countries, and a daughter who goes on national television and asks directly for someone to do the right thing. I'll ask you the same thing the investigators are asking the public, if you were in that neighborhood, if you noticed anything unusual around that time, if you know anything, even something that feels small, it matters. Cases like this aren't solved by one big break. They're solved by tip lines ringing. If you have any information related to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, please contact the FBI directly at 1-800-CALL-FBI or the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900. You can also reach out to local authorities or 911 if it's urgent. I'll be honest with you, this isn't a case with a tidy ending yet. I don't know if this video will be the one that ages well by the time she's found, or the one that ages badly because something's already changed by the time you're watching this. That's the nature of covering a case that's still live. We'll keep tracking it, and if there's a major development, we'll come back and cover it. Thank you for watching and for caring about a story that's still being written.